40 years ago, a 21-year-old rookie started for the American League in the All-Star game. Now, there have been other rookies who've started the Midsummer Classic, but there's never been anyone quite like the American League starter that night. And the story of where he came from, how high he rose, and what happened to him afterwards is just as compelling as the persona he brought to the mound.
April in Northborough, Massachusetts, a little less than 40 miles west of Boston. It would be a stretch to call this a small town, but there are plenty of places here where everyone seems to know each other. Nowhere more so than Chet's Diner on Main Street.
It's pretty quiet in there. Bringing a camera, it quiets right down.
No, she knows what happens to me when a camera goes on my face. I stop talking.
Chet's is a family spot that's been around for more than 80 years. The owners, Ann and Jessica, are mother and daughter who've lived in Northborough for their whole lives. Today, they'll keep the diner open a little later than usual to celebrate the one reason you might have heard of Northborough, Massachusetts. The kid who became a hero and a legend, not just to his wife and daughter, but to everyone in this town who remembers what it was like to know someone who became so famous so quickly.
Pitching for the Tigers, a gentleman I think we would have to refer to as a character. His name is Mark Fidrych. He's 21 years old. He's from Worcester, Massachusetts.
He's from Northborough.
Why would they say Worcester?
Because that's where he was born. He was born in Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester. In the hospital.
In the hospital, yeah.
The latest overnight superstar in the sports world is a young rookie pitcher for the Detroit Tigers who has a strange nickname.
I mean, I've been stopped at a red light and asked for my autograph. People jump out of the car and say, hey, it's you. Can I have your autograph, you know? I said, wow.
It was insane, crazy. You can't even understand it.
And all in a year. It's just unbelievable.
In a summer.
In a summer.
Not even
That's
a year.
That's
in a
exactly
summer.
Right.
It was the summer of 1976. Not every phenomenon has a clear starting point, but Mark Fidrych's did.
50,000 fans will be here tonight to see 21-year-old Mark Fidrych.
It was a Monday night in June. The Tigers playing the Yankees with a pitcher who looked and acted like no one else before him or since.
Look at him, talking to that ball.
I've never seen this.
You never watched this game?
Nope.
It still means something, all these years later, to remember and discover who he was.
The hair. Boys.
The fans are cheering, let's go Mark. He got it. He is some kind of unbelievable young Mark Fidrych.
This is the best of times, man. This is the best of times.
1,000 miles west of Northborough, Mass, in the spring of 1976, Detroit, Michigan was already a shadow of what it had once been. Layoffs in the auto industry had crippled the economy. With budgets slashed, policemen, firemen, and teachers laid off, the city seemed like it was crumbling.
In 1976, America's finally coming out of the Vietnam era, the Watergate scandal. If most of America is feeling this kind of renewed sense of optimism, Detroit is not feeling that.
Detroit, already in the grips of a devastating economic recession, was ripe for violence.
There's gang violence that's spilling over into the streets. It's really a depressed city.
It was only 8 years before that Detroit blew up in riots. 1976, those buildings are still burned. Those blocks are still empty. I mean, everybody was leaving Detroit. Nobody wanted to stay in Detroit.
It's not a period of optimism in Detroit. And the Detroit Tigers are not giving anybody anything to feel optimistic about either.
That's the 5th error of the ball game for the Detroit Tigers.
73, 74, 75, they were really bad. I mean, no getting around it. And that great pride of what the Tigers were had disappeared. All of a sudden, after those miserable years, Mark Fidrych electrified Detroit again.
Berg came along where we having problems, and he came a city of lift.
Changed people's lives, made a difference, you know, brought hope to a whole region. it was okay to be from Detroit because the Bird was pitching for the Tigers.
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the Bird.
And starting to yell, go Bird, go.
My favorite player was Mark Fidrych, the Bird.
It was Bird mania.
Bird is the word. I've never seen anything like it in my life. 20,000 extra people flocked to the ballpark.
When he walked out the dugout, bang!
Everything about him made your curiosity want to know more.
He's cool.
He's so weird, he's good.
Who ever heard of a guy named the Bird?
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the Bird.
I like his hair. I like the way he fixes his man.
That is not a member of the Detroit ground crew.
He talks to the ball a lot.
Fidrych talking to the ball.
He's nutty. It's good to be nutty.
People that might not even talk about baseball were talking about baseball.
He was a phenomenon.
I don't know what to do.
There was a new kind of athlete, the way that John Lennon was a new kind of musician.
Go Bird, go.
I love this guy.
Right time, right place, right guy.
What he did for the game of baseball in the city of Detroit, it's unheard of.
Look at that, shaking the policeman's hand.
He was like a shooting star. It shined bright. It was wonderful.
The Bird may have lit up the baseball world in 1976, but he also seemed to always know how fleeting fame can be, how it can come and go at a moment's notice.
What if you woke up tomorrow morning and none of this happened? It was all just a dream, right?
Yeah, that would be funny. No, that would be funny, you know, just wake up and say, wow, what a dream I had that night. That was the best 8 hours sleep I ever had.
When we were young in Northborough, Mark was always creating some chaos. He always had something exciting going on. He was energetic, happy, running around talking a lot or being eccentric or crazy. It was normal because that's what we were used to.
Because of his energy and his antics, he always would get into some issues.
A lot of trouble.
I think that he could gather enthusiasm for lots of people around him, even at that age, and whether it was in school or out of school, actually.
Young Mark Fidrych's endless energy was also evident pitching for Northborough's high school baseball team.
He was very focused. You know, his hands up with the glove, focused, constantly moving and chattering. I don't remember him smoothing the mound down, but he was into it.
He had talent, too. And in the 10th round of baseball's 1974 draft, the Tigers made him their pick.
The first time we met Mark Fidrych, we were playing in Oklahoma City. And in the first inning, a ground ball was hit to shortstop. Chuck Scrivener made a really nice play, and he ran over and shook his hand right in the middle of the inning. And right then and there, we said, whoa, who is this guy?
One of the minor league coaches thought he reminded him of the Big Bird on Sesame Street.
I thought it was pretty cool that they called him the Bird and he was lanky, and you could see the resemblance.
Somebody was talking, you know, we got this kid that's a pitcher in the organization, they call him the Bird, and he's talking to the ball, he's patting down the mound. I guess it was pretty comical, really. But I can remember also that they were talking about this kid's really good.
Fidrych was invited to big league camp the following spring in 1976. And at age 21, with just 1 year of professional experience, the kid from Northborough made the Tiger roster.
No one in the town can believe it. They're all happy for him. They pray for him. They even put signs up, "Come on, Bird." Glad he's got his little wish that he had when he was a little boy.
Back home, they may have been thrilled, but everywhere else, they barely noticed.
In 1976, there was no coverage of Mark Fidrych coming out of spring training. Nobody was like, hey, the Tigers have got this kid and he's incredible. None of that.
Frankly, I don't remember him at all. There was no buzz, no excitement, nothing.
What finally happens is that Dave Roberts, who's one of the starters on the Tigers staff, comes down with a flu. It's May 15th in Detroit against the Cleveland Indians. This is the opportunity for Mark Fidrych to take the mound for his first major league start.
Nobody at Tiger Stadium that day could have expected what the lanky 6'3" curly-haired kid was about to do.
I was like, who is this goofy guy?
He talked to the ball, he talked to the sky, he talked to everything.
And after 6 innings, along with all the quirks, he hadn't allowed a hit.
And I never forget Rico Carter and all them guys. They were out there laughing at him. They looked around, he got a no-hitter going.
At one point, the Tiger Stadium grounds crew comes out and tries to shovel some sand, and he stops them. He's like, hey, I'm pitching a no-hitter. Like, I want to do this myself. And he takes a handful of sand out of their wheelbarrow and smushes it down. Winds up giving only 2 hits to the Cleveland Indians. Tigers win 2-1. It's a complete game victory for this kid in his first major league start.
Fidrych followed up his strong and colorful debut with a tough-luck complete game loss to the Red Sox, but then reeled off 6 straight wins, 5 of them complete games. But since only a small portion of Tiger games were televised, the exploits of the Bird were mostly just written about in local sports pages or described on the radio.
When you were a fan in 1976 as a kid, you listened to the game.
I had a little transistor radio with a little cord that went up to my ear, and I would take that to school with me and listen to it, especially, when I could, until the teacher told me to put my radio away.
I was just happy to be playing the big league and on a hot streak. So when you're on a hot streak, you throw me in there all the time,
I hear the Boston accent. That's what I hear. I hear him kind of, his personality, like, just kind of goofy. Everything's cool.
Well, life, yes. I don't know how to answer that.
We're 2 kids growing up in the mid-'70s. We don't know anything. All we know is that there's this thing happening, man, and we want to be a part of it.
Boy, this is a roaring crowd. They came out to see the Birdman.
Fidrych was really only kind of a rumor in a weird way.
You had to see it up close. Because there was no social media, you were forced to investigate yourself the rumors of what is this guy all about?
All that was about to change. Mark Fidrych was scheduled to face the first-place Yankees on a Monday night in June. The game would be nationally televised, commonplace now, but back then, a real event.
Monday night baseball, where the whole nation was watching, I mean, every eye was on that TV. And our team, the Tigers, was going to be playing on Monday night with the Bird pitching. That was big.
I remember flying on the Yankee charter from New York. The Brewers and the Yankees had played at Yankee Stadium, and Fidrych had already beaten the Brewers. I saw him pitch, and Billy Martin had said, tell me about this Bird guy. Tell me about Fidrych. I said, I don't know that much about him. I said, I'm telling you, he can pitch. He said, here's what I think. If he beats us, I'll eat my hat at home plate. Okay?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great night of Monday Night Baseball. Where close to 40,000 fans are on hand to see if the young and ambitious Detroit team can flag down this Yankee Express.
It was just hard to believe that someone from our town, was on national television pitching.
So Mark Fidrych is the man people have come to see tonight.
We were curious coming to the ballpark. Who the hell is this crazy guy,
You'll see him mumble a couple of words to the ball.
He was an oddity, a real oddity. Nobody ever did what Fidrych did.
Look at him, talking to that ball.
What pitcher ever talk to a ball?
I get a kick out of this guy.
He's probably saying, come on, move that ball, move that ball.
I didn't think he was going to talk to it. I thought he was going to eat it. I'm not kidding you, because that's exactly where it was.
That is not a member of the Detroit ground crew. That's starting pitcher Mark Fidrych.
You never saw this. You never saw a guy manicured as if it was his own personal ground crew.
He's congratulating each player. Hey, even on so-so plays.
He did some cuckoo things, but the guy could pitch. That was the bottom line. All this other stuff wouldn't have mattered if he was getting his brains beat in.
Another easy inning for the young right-hander Mark Fidrych.
As Fidrych made his way through the game, keeping a star-studded Yankees lineup at bay, Tiger Stadium and a national audience were captivated.
Energy was building and building and building.
The fans are cheering, let's go Mark.
Northborough was like a ghost town downtown.
You literally could hear the cheering. The windows are open.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You could hear the cheering from house to house.
Oh, yeah.
Fans really getting a kick and reacting to Fidrych.
They got to be in love with this young man, no question about it.
I'll tell you, he has won this town.
It was 50,000 in Tiger Stadium. I thought they were going to break it down.
Can you imagine the hand Fidrych is going to receive in the top of the 9th inning?
As the 9th inning began, Fidrych and the Tigers had a 5-1 lead.
He got it! And the fans are standing for Fidrych.
I still remember watching that from beginning to end. Every pitch you're on the edge of your seat. It's just unforgettable.
2 down in the ninth. Yes. See, look at Lou. I've seen a lot of ball games played, and I've caught a few. I don't think I've ever seen a pitcher this keyed up.
I'm watching it like I don't know how the ending's going to be. Finish it up.
The fans ready to explode. Here's your pitch. Ground ball should be the ball game. It's over.
He knows he beat the Yankees.
And the Tigers act like Fidrych has just won the 7th game of the World Series.
He has. He's won 7 in a row. He is some kind of unbelievable young Mark Fidrych.
The crowd, I noticed, didn't leave. I said, they're not going to leave until he comes back out of the dugout.
They were screaming, "We want the bird, we want the bird." And I said, he's got to come back out here.
The fans want him to come back. The fans are calling for him to come back.
I said, "Mark, you got to put that shirt back on, son. You got something to do." I told him, I said, "You're going to go up those stairs to tip your hat." He says, "Come on, you're going to make me do this? You got to come up with me." I said, "They're not screaming, 'We want the bird' and Rusty. They're screaming, 'We want the bird.'" It was exhilarating. I am not kidding you. It was just so great.
And here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, this is unbelievable. He loves him. Look at that. Shaking the policeman's hand. Look at that.
It's like this seismic wave of emotion. It's just this roar, and you can see he can barely stand upright.
This kid is terrific.
I've been in baseball 35 years. I have never in my life ever seen anything to equal this.
That doesn't happen. We just don't do that. You know, the game-winning hit or the star of the game gets interviewed on the field, salutes the fans, and then you don't see him again. But for Mark Fidrych, he just couldn't get enough.
And now Bob Uecker in the Tiger dugout with winning pitcher Mark Fidrych. Bob?
I remember the first thing he asked me was, "Do I get paid for this?" So I didn't know what, if we did paydays or anything. I said, "You know what? Keep checking your mailbox. I'll make sure there's something in there. Just keep checking your mailbox." And then we did the interview.
The pitching sensation of the American League is with us tonight. Mark, I've never seen anything like this in my life tonight, and I know it's a very emotional moment for you. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Of course.
He's coming out as hard as I can come out at people. And then I have the D. Those guys are doing 2/3 the work, and I'm only doing 1/3 by pitching, They got me to runs and all that other stuff, and the people come out and draw it and get my adrenaline flowing. What can I ask? I couldn't ask for no much more.
He's not trained to do interviews. You know what I mean? So it's just pure him, just kind of, what do you want to talk to me for? Just to pitch in baseball.
You said you did this in the minor leagues too, Mark. I mean, this isn't just a thing that has started now in the major leagues. You did it all the time, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I've done this ever since I've been pitching. Keep my mind in the game. Cut.
All right, that's our man Mark Fidrych tonight. We'll be back with more right after this.
After the interview was over and we were done, I took a walk into the Yankee clubhouse. And I remember Billy telling me, "Don't say anything. Don't say anything." I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you, the guy can pitch.
Monday Night Baseball, we watched every pitch. Tuesday, we were playing Little League Baseball, and when I took the mound, I was talking to the ball, I was patting the mound.
We were doing Fidrych, We were fixing the mound. We were filling the hole. We were squatted down, filling the hole, digging it out, patting it down with our heel.
Doing all the gestures.
We were doing the right arm. We were doing the right arm, talking to himself, talking to the ball.
People were commenting, "Jimmy must have watched Monday Night Baseball last night."
And then Birdmania explodes nationwide.
The latest overnight superstar in the sports world is a young rookie pitcher for the Detroit Tigers.
The Bird is the best! The Bird is another Muhammad Ali!
Fidrych mania captured the country so fast.
The young Mark Fidrych has everything a fella could ask for right now.
Mark Fidrych, a big-time baseball player who has long blonde curls and one of the largest followings in baseball.
I mean, what can you say? We love him! All right!
You know, my oldest daughter, she's 12, and she said, "Hey, Dad, would you get Mark's autograph?" And I said, I'd be happy to, but now I'm embarrassed to walk up and ask a 21-year-old kid for his autograph.
It was authentic, man. He was like loving it. It was so pure.
If I go out, to a restaurant or something, I'm history. I just sit there and sign autographs while I'm eating my meal.
He was just completely real. He was just Mark Fidrych from Northborough, and went out there and makes baseball a game again.
Do you feel you're the same kid that you were before this all started?
Yes, but I've changed a little bit because now I can't leave my phone on my hook in the hotel. When I'm there, I have to take it off just so I don't get called at 9 o'clock in the morning from you people,
We would go grocery shopping, and we wouldn't even get through the aisle, and everybody would be all over him. I think it took us like 5 hours to go grocery shopping. The girls, oh my God, the girls loved him.
Cars are pulling up beside us, beeping the horn, put the window down. Is that? And like, yeah. Oh, they're going crazy. It was insane.
Remember, his wife is here, so he might not want to disclose this information.
A week or two after his Monday Night Baseball game, he gets to go backstage when Elton John plays in Detroit. And Elton John knows about him, knows who he is, gives him a pair of signed Elton John shorts. Bird gives him a Bird t-shirt. I mean, imagine that. It's not even 2 months since your first major league start, and Elton John wants to hang out with you. That is mind-blowing.
The fame was staggering, and Fidrych's performance remained dominant. At midseason, he was 9-2 with a 1.72 ERA and was named the American League's starting pitcher in the All-Star game.
Mark Fidrych, I live in Northborough, Massachusetts, and I'm a pitcher for the All-Star game. Is that good?
At the game, even the president wanted to talk to the Bird.
You throw it better than I do.
By the time he pitches in the All-Star game, Birdmania is huge. Peter Frampton is the biggest rock star in 1976. Mark Fidrych is as big as Peter Frampton, maybe bigger. Plus, throw the Fonz in there.
You smell awful good.
As good as I pitch?
Even better.
It must be my Aqua Velva Musk, the extra strength lotion for my face and my body.
By '76, we represented the William Morris office and me, Bob Gibson, Don Drysdale, Mark Spitz, Secretariat, and then, of course, Mark Fidrych, who to me was my most delightful client.
Hey, Mark, what are you doing after the game?
Well, all right.
I get a phone call from Frank Sinatra. He says, "I hear you're coming to California with Mark the Bird Fidrych." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "They're throwing a birthday party for me, and I want you guys to come." Now, I am telling you, the stars in that room, and all Frank Sinatra would do was talk to Mark the Bird Fidrych.
So popular has the Bird become that reserved seats were sold out long in advance. Fans lined up outside Tiger Stadium all day for the 11,000 bleacher seats that would go on sale before game time.
God loves the Bird is the word.
The Bird was a phenomenon across the game, and in Detroit, attendance nearly tripled for Fidrych's starts.
It wasn't just Detroit. It was when they went on the road. Teams were praying that he pitched. They were calling into Detroit to find out what his scheduled day was.
Those packed stands mean big money, of course, yet the Bird is a club owner's dream. He's been working for the rookie minimum, which is $16,500 a year. Says if he weren't doing this, he'd be pumping gas somewhere.
It's the most I've ever thought about making in my life. I never ever dreamed of making that. At 21 years old, I look at some of my friends. I come home, and then I didn't come close to making that, right?
There's a grassroots send a buck to the Bird campaign where people just start putting dollars into envelopes. This is like laid off auto workers. I mean, people who can't really spare this money just because they want to thank him for all the joy that he's brought to them.
he came like the nest, and people came around him. And I think it gave him that inner strength when they go to their job or didn't have a job. And he came a city of lift.
Well, they're chanting here at Tiger Stadium, "We want the bird." And ironically, the whole White Sox team is in the dugout. They want to see Fidrych come out before this mob here.
Fidrych finished the season with a 19-9 record, 24 complete games, and a league-best 2.34 ERA. All of that earned him the American League Rookie of the Year and rendered even the most talkative of young Tiger fans awestruck.
We went to a game. Mark came over and said hello to my dad and looked at me and my brother. And then he looked right at me and, "Hey, nice to meet you. What's your name?" And I was like, "Do you like baseball?" Couldn't talk, but okay, I'll catch you guys later. And he walked up the dugout, and then we just watched him, walk out. And he had the frizzy hair and cool, Next day, I'm telling all my friends, I talked to Mark Fidrych. It's just one of those moments you don't ever forget.
After he electrified the city of Detroit and all of baseball as a rookie in 1976, everyone wondered what Mark Fidrych would do for an encore in '77.
Was he going to win 25 games? What would he do to follow up 76? The whole country was clamoring to see him. Every writer wanted to interview him. Every magazine wanted to put him on the cover.
Including a magazine whose covers were usually reserved for different kinds of stars. To this day, Fidrych remains the only baseball player ever to grace the cover of Rolling Stone.
One of the reasons it belonged on the cover of Rolling Stone, it was a barometer of the culture. And particularly, it was a barometer of what was still being called the counterculture.
Fidrych's stardom was bigger than ever when he arrived at spring training in Florida in '77.
He's, playing leapfrog. He's just goofing around, having a good time. And Rusty Staub comes over to him and says,
"Stop messing around and doing stupid things where you could get hurt." I said, "You're too important to the team."
And then a ball could hit out to us. I said, "You gonna take it, Rusty?" He goes, "No." I said, "I'm gonna get it." I ran for it, got the ball, and I jumped up to get it. I came down, my knee went out.
He went to center field and jumped over some guy to catch the ball in front of him, and that's when he hurt his knee.
And Rusty goes, "No, I don't believe this did. 2 seconds, I just been pumping stuff into your head and you go and run off." I say, "Hey, that's life,
The bird was grounded. He'd torn cartilage in the knee and would need surgery to repair the damage.
The Tigers, knowing that he's their meal ticket, rush him back from the knee injury.
I would have gave him a year off. But people was just a demand.
Remember, I went to Jim Campbell's office and I said, "Jim, this kid doesn't know anything but 100 miles an hour." I said, "Why don't you take your time bringing him back? He's so important to the game." And so nobody listened to me.
And so just 2 months after the surgery, Fidrych returned to a packed house at Tiger Stadium.
And he went out and he pitched a great game. In the second game, he pitched a great game.
He won 5 in a row. Boom. He was back.
The bird bounced back quickly and reassured everyone about that knee.
Oh, my knee's fine. All I got is a scar now. I don't worry about anything like that, man. It's just great. I'm feeling fine. I'm in heaven right now.
It was really exciting to see him come back. He goes 6-2, 182 earned run average, throws 7 out of 8 straight complete games. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. The bird is back.
I looked like a fool. And then it happened.
All of a sudden, the dream became a nightmare.
He's pitching against the Orioles on July 4th, and his arm goes dead.
He hurt his knee and apparently altered his pitching motion. The result was tendinitis of the right shoulder.
And that's pretty much it for the season. He makes the All-Star team for the American League, but he can't pitch. He's injured.
Doctors prescribed rest and rehab for the shoulder, and Fidrych wouldn't return until April of 1978.
Congratulations. Hope everything goes well for you. I do too.
Initially, he looked the same as ever, throwing 2 complete game gems to start the year. But his shoulder pain soon returned.
In Fidrych's next start, the Bird took a beating.
And he was sent back to the disabled list. The next season, in 1979, he made just 4 starts, struggling badly in each one.
Fidrych had given up 8 hits in just 2 innings and left to a smattering of boos.
Doctors and trainers were confounded. No one could explain why the tendonitis kept recurring.
We didn't know anything about elbows and shoulders. We didn't understand all that.
The Tigers were so desperate for answers that they even sent Fidrych to see a hypnotist.
He goes, "Do you want to play baseball?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how come you're not?" And I said, "Well, my arms hold me back." He goes, "How do you know your arms hold you back? Maybe it's your subconscious."
The subconscious mind.
And I'd get defensive. I said, "No, it's not in my head."
The subconscious mind. The computer has been programmed right there.
Maybe that's what it was. So you gotta, hey, you try every angle. We tried every doctor, why not try every angle, you know?
When the injuries started to happen, you could see sadness in Mark. Sadness that I have never seen before.
In 1980, Fidrych found himself back in the minors.
His fastball was not as good as it has been tonight, but his breaking ball was pretty good. His slider's coming around. And now, you know, our next step is he's got to show the hitters some changeups.
It was my job kind of to, you know, encourage him and not to let him get down and give him the best advice I possibly could.
Do you think he'll make it back to the big leagues?
I don't think there's any question in his mind or my mind or Jimmy Leland or the whole Detroit organization.
Fidrych would return to the majors one last time at the tail end of the 1980 season.
They came to see him, over 50,000, just as they had in 1976, when he awakened even the most jaded hearts in ballparks around the nation.
There were a few flashes that recalled his prime.
Listen to this place buzz. Go, Bird, go. Go, Bird, go.
But there was no denying the life had gone from his arm.
It's a fragile thing, a pitcher's arm. Some people, you know, one little thing that you do wrong, you know, the career's over.
And that's going to be all for the Bird, Mark Fidrych.
At the end of 1980, the Detroit Tigers released Mark Fidrych, and Bird Mania was no more. In an attempt to make one final comeback, Fidrych pitched for the Red Sox AAA team in Pawtucket. But by 1983, it was time for Fidrych to walk away. At 28 years old, he was out of baseball.
I look back at it and you wish it lasted longer, but it lasted enough. I had a beautiful baseball career.
It was later discovered that the Bird had been pitching with a torn rotator cuff all those years.
This is basically, you know, what I do.
After retiring, the kid from Northborough returned home and bought a farm.
See, now these guys are all getting interested, going, pretty serious. What's going on? Look at them.
He also started doing odd jobs around town. And one morning, his work brought him to a popular meeting spot on Main Street.
He came in as a liquor salesman. He tried that out for a bit right after he retired from baseball. He asked me out. I knew who he was, but it didn't have any effect on me. He was funny, genuine. I mean, he wore his heart on his sleeve. Eventually, I said yes.
When I played ball, I was happy because I was playing ball and there was people there, and you were that happy. My happy today is my daughter, my wife, my farm. Come on, we'll sit over here, and maybe they'll come up to us.
We did everything together when I was a kid. We were best friends. I was an only child, so it was pretty exciting.
Why is the food running out? Why? Why?
Why? Because they ate it.
I remember when he decided he was going to drive a truck for a living. He got a lot of flack from friends, family. You know, what do you want to do that for? You know, you used to play baseball, and why are you driving a truck? I says, Mark, if you want to drive a truck, drive a truck.
There's only one thing now that I found that it was just as enjoyable as playing baseball was driving my truck.
He named it after his daughter, so the Mack truck was called Jessica. It was his second baby, so to speak.
Once you get out of the game, you can look back, have fun looking back, read your scrapbook, but you can't live on that. You got to live on what is today.
He was at the diner one day and someone said to him, "I recognize you. Where do I know you from?" And he said to the man, "Oh, I used to work at the Sunoco station down the street." No mention of baseball at all. Absolutely none.
People wonder where Mark Fidrych's life and career of baseball is. It's right in here, folks.
Baseball was definitely packed away. But back in Detroit, fans hadn't forgotten what the bird meant to them. And for Ann and Jessica, occasional trips back to the Motor City showed them just how big a star he'd once been.
It really never dawned on me of how significant he was until we're sitting in the stands and everybody's coming up to us and I'm like, "Mom, what are we doing? Like, what's going on? Mark, let me buy you a beer. Mark, Mark, Mark." I'm like, "Dad, what is going on?"
There was this mob of fans that just kind of descended on him.
And everyone's grabbing at him, grabbing at him.
So we're like down on the ground. How do we get out of here?
That was my moment of, wow.
The morning of April 13th, 2009, the Fidryches opened Chet's at 5:30 a.m. as usual.
My sister and I decided that we were going to Chet's Diner to have breakfast. So we went, and Mark was our waiter.
After breakfast, Mark Fidrych returned to his farm and climbed under his truck to make some repairs.
Bad day.
I knew something was wrong. And I didn't know what it was. It's like this feeling came over my whole body.
Alone on the farm, with no one around to help, Fidrych's clothes became entangled in the drive shaft of the truck he was working on. A friend found his body hours later.
My manager at work came and got me, and she was like, "Jess, something happened." I said, "I already knew something happened. Like, I didn't have a clue what it was. I knew something really bad."
An autopsy later revealed that Mark Fidrych had suffocated.
It was just like, no way. We were just with him. No way. It couldn't happen.
For a man who loved life, for it to be taken away, that was painful. And
it was surreal because of the fact that, like, this is my dad, and all these other people in the world are freaking out too.
Former baseball player Mark "the Bird" Fidrych has died.
Apparently in an accident while working on his own truck. Mark Fidrych was just 54.
My first thought was, the good die young. It's, thinking this day, it's sort of sad for me.
I mean, it was like somebody hits you with a sledgehammer. You couldn't believe it, you know.
Mark, a type of person that make you never complain and just be thankful. And today I can talk about Bird all day. That's the memory he gave me, and that's what I shared it with his family when I went to the funeral.
Willie Horton comes to my dad's funeral and starts talking about him, and I'm like, oh my God, this man, my father, had just as much of an impact on me as he did him. They were best friends. And even though that was 30 years ago, it doesn't matter.
The wake it went for like 7 or 8 hours.
There was a line for, for almost a mile. And I was looking ahead in the line and behind me in the line, and it was like my whole life in front of me. It was pretty incredible, really, to see the outpouring for this fine guy,
Makes me sad to think about it, because he was so awesome. Sorry.
A little more than 2 months after Fidrych's death, the Tigers paid their own tribute, and as part of the ceremony, they invited Ann and Jessica to throw out the first pitch.
I remember practicing and saying, I'm going to show my dad that I can do this.
She practiced and practiced and practiced, and you know what, I'll tell you, she looks just like her father when she pitches the ball. That's the crazy part. The long legs, the whole stance. I'm there. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Look at this.
It was so scary, and it was... I really don't want to ever do it again. That's how scary it was.
I've never been asked to catch too many first pitches, but that was an honor.
I got to do something that he did, that he really loved.
If the legend of the Birds' exploits on the diamond will never be forgotten in Detroit, back in Northborough, it's his spirit they still talk about.
The guy's nephew had leukemia, and he said, yeah, can you sign an autograph for Mark? And Mark says, no. Where is he? He's in a hospital in Worcester. He went and put his full uniform on, went up there and gave him an autographed baseball, shook his hand. That's the way he was. It's just unbelievable.
What we've continued is that legacy of him helping others, specifically kids with special needs. So we're real proud of that. And
So we started the
Mark Fidrych Foundation.
Mark Fidrych. I live in Northborough, Massachusetts, and I'm a pitcher.
Mark the Bird Fidrych was in a lot of ways the first of his kind. A small-town kid who became a cultural sensation overnight with a rise that far transcended his sport.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. He was probably the most popular player in Tiger history for those couple years.
What can I ask? I couldn't ask for no much more.
But the Bird was also the last of the kind, too. A star who came before big money and big media changed the landscape forever.
Do you think it's going to be tough to stay the way you are?
I don't know. Well, we'll find that out in the future. But right now, I feel like I'm still the same person.
Whatever happened to him never affected him at all. Didn't change a lick. I think everybody should be envious of that.
It's more rewarding now that people still remember me. That's what's beautiful to me right now.
Who would have thought that a pitcher with just 29 big league wins would still be remembered after all these years? Then again, who could have imagined a character like Mark Fidrych ever walking onto a mound?
I have never in my life ever seen anything equal this. This kid is terrific.
Once upon a time, on a Monday night in June long ago, a phenomenon was born. And if you talk to the folks who were there, you'll discover what it meant is still as alive as ever.
Oh my God, the outpouring of emotion. I mean, that's like what sports is all about. The moment that they had with this guy and the way that this region connected in that moment and needed it so bad. It was magical.
You can't find verbiage for some things in life. And what took place with him, it was wonderful.
Oh, this is unbelievable. He loves him. Look at that.
How do you find the words for something that was so exciting?